All right, guys, we are here at Moserland in New York City. They were nice enough to host us for a collector series. We're sitting down with Shane, who is a pretty phenomenal collector of not only Moser, but many other brands. And Shane, tell us about yourself, tell us about your collection. And
So, I'm a bug guy, pest control. Nothing, pretty average dude. I've been collecting probably for 20 years. My father got me started. Kind of, that was our hobby together. So it's always been a passion of mine to always kind of like, I guess, prove that I can. It's one of those things where I've always wanted to be like, I want to have a nice enough watch and I want to make my dad proud. And it was always like that one thing where everyone has like, you got to do something to make your dad proud. It was always, I want to know a little bit more about watches, maybe have a nicer watch than him, or try to have that competition of like good, nice, high horology.
My father got me into watches as well. He wasn't a big collector by any means, but he always liked watches, appreciated them. So I get the idea. So it definitely makes sense to me. And you have a pretty eclectic collection. So we're going from Moser, we have streamliners here that are pretty insane. And then you have a swatch on here, which is a pretty funny, pretty interesting swatch. We'll get back to that in just a few minutes. But Moserland here in New York City is open by appointment only. So if you are interested in visiting Moser, you have to make an appointment. However, really awesome space. We'll show you that space throughout this video. And obviously they are hosting us today, so we very much appreciate that. We're gonna go through your collection one watch at a time, and we're gonna start with the Moser.
Cool.
Right here. It probably, I think, a watch that will be in my collection hopefully very soon. This is a Pioneer Center Seconds.
So
tell us about this.
This is my baby. I use this every day. It's kind of like that perfect watch. You get that high horology, get an awesome Moser, but living in Florida, I can swim, I can go to the beach, I can go to the pool, I can do everything with it. I don't have to worry about anything. And this one kind of makes all of my other watches a problem because I tend to wear it more than absolutely everything I own. And I just give it way too much time. But I love it because it's that perfect daily, like you can go to a nice dinner and it totally fits in. You can go to the beach, it fits in. It is, I think the Pioneers are incredible, and the Streamliners, just because they're awesome movements, but the water resistance on it, where you can really get them wet and play with them, and they're just workhorses.
Then the movement, the HMC 200. I mean, it's a very, very versatile watch. 120 meters of water resistance,
I believe so, yeah.
And basically, yeah, like you said, anywhere, do anything, and it's a really good looking dial. The dial on these are phenomenal.
I work on motors. I do like anything I can do. My goal is to actually try to beat it up as much as I possibly can, because I want to kind of test the boundaries of it. I rebuild motors, my hands in the, like most of all of them will have scratches on the crystal or nicks and dings on them, just because I'm such a patina guy, where I love scratches, and like it doesn't bother me whatsoever. It's very much like a fingerprint on it, and like it represents all the fun things I've done in them.
And then we're gonna move into something that's a little bit funky, a little bit weird. We have a Bamford, and then we have a Tipsum. I've featured Tipsum on my channel. Okay. They make a really cool, sort of I guess a 50 fathoms homage, I guess you would call it.
Very much so, yeah. You get that bezel that just screams it.
But this is a very limited edition version of a Tipsum, and it is basically a second, or second, whatever you want to call it, version of it. I think you said it was limited edition of 15.
Yes, this is actually my first second, and I've always wanted one, but then I kind of didn't get the itch scratched because I kind of want a second hand that does something. I mean, like, that is so second. Where this is more of an idea of a painted dial to kind of go with the whole diving and kind of getting narc while diving, because when you start breathing, because living in Florida, we dive and do all the fun ocean stuff. And when you start to go down deep and you're breathing really awesome oxygen, you start to get all happy, and you do get all kind of, I don't know, it's like drunk on oxygen. It feels cool. You're just not nervous under the water. And it's pretty cool because it represents that portion of diving, which I've never really seen before in a watch.
And then Bamford, which is another collaboration with Second, and this is the one with the middle finger, the bad mofo.
That is so me. Like I'm that guy.
Right, this is a mono pusher chronograph, so you start that up.
The first mono pusher chronograph I've ever got. But this one really did scratch it because now you have the actual second like where he did his second hand.
with the middle finger.
And it just like I was like, I have to make this happen no matter, like this is the one I want.
It's really funny.
And one thing, you could swim in it, you could do some fun stuff in it. And that's my biggest thing is, can I live in it? Because so many people have dress watches that if you sweat too much, it starts to ruin it. It's just like.
Speaking of collaborations, today on my wrist, which is not my watch, I'd love to trade this watch or buy one of these, but I believe these are completely sold out. This is the Undefeated Streamliner chronograph, which is just insane. They actually have a clock up on the wall. We'll show you a picture of that as well with the camouflage dial, which is tone on tone. Man, it's gorgeous. And the bracelet, this is just a gorgeous, gorgeous watch. And you have a Streamliner. That's your Streamliner on your wrist. Unfortunately, I don't own one, but you do. So tell us about that one.
It's incredible. I don't even think people genuinely get this one. The chronograph Streamliner is so underrated, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, just all the magic. I never really fell in love with it until I understood. I mean, like, okay, cool, it's a chronograph. And I genuinely love chronographs and divers. Those are my fun things. If I can swim with a chronograph and have fun with it, even better. But I always thought when I looked on their website, there was something misprinted because when you look at the movement on the other side, it says it's an automatic. And you look at it and you're like, that's the most glorious manual wound. And I was like, okay, they just screwed it up. And I was like, yeah, things happen. Until you really look deeper and the, it's genuinely an automatic.
Yep, that's the micro rotor is actually hidden within the Ingenieur.
It's underneath the dial, and I'm like, oh, that's incredible. Yeah. And then once learning, I mean, it's just, I love this watch.
Yeah, it's incredible.
It's one of those things that's really nice, but I still love the daily of the Pioneer. Yep. But when this is kind of if I want to get dressed up a little bit more and walk around, I'll throw on the chronograph.
And the bracelet on these watches are probably some of the best, or the best in the integrated bracelet watch sphere of you know, just watches out there. And you know, this is the smoked salmon. This is also one of your watches, obviously, and this has the HMC 200 in it.
Yes. Which
is basically the same movement that's in the Pioneer center seconds, but this has the smoked salmon dial. It's a time only, no date. But you get the same bracelet, you get pretty much the same case. Is it the same case size as the chronograph?
So that one's gonna be a 40 millimeter.
40 millimeter.
And this one's gonna be the 42. So
it's so it's a little bit bigger. Makes sense because that's a much more complicated, bigger movement. Although when you see them, the only thing that really tells you.
I can't tell the difference.
Yeah, it's the pushers, really. Just like sort of a bullhead versus, you know, the time only, but you know, it's not a cluttered dial, which is something that they do.
Oh, when anyone looks at this, they don't even think it's a
you don't know it's a chronograph.
Like, you can't even
flip it over and you're like, what is that thing doing?
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a very complicated watch, but it is.
That's why I love it too. Everything about this is just hiding and it's subtle and it's not trying to be like, look at me.
Yeah.
With so many watches that are trying to be, look at me.
We're going from, like, you know, high-end hot horology to something that is just what kind of watch collecting is about, in my opinion.
Totally.
This is something that is fun, it's funny. I might have to wash my hands after handling it because
very much.
You could explain why, but it's a really fun watch. Tell us about it. It's a Swatch.
The Swatch Bunny Sutra. It's the coolest cheap watch. It just shouldn't be made, and that's what makes it fun. Like, I love getting the things that they just don't make sense, or they shouldn't really be there. To me, it just screams kids watch, because that's what you think of Swatch. Like, you getting into watches,
but you should not show your kids this watch.
No, I mean, I think you could. I think they wouldn't even kind of get it.
Yeah,
it doesn't even make
sense.
I mean, you really got to stare at it. But
so I'll just show the functionality very quickly. So basically what you do is you just take the watch, that's it right there.
So if you tap the screen, you beat it up, it's a Swatch, man.
Oh, there you go. So now, basically the hands come together. So the hour and minute hand come together, and then it turns until it lands on a
random sex position.
Sex position, basically. Yes. And on the dial, there are two bunny rabbits performing that sexual position. So
the bunny sutra.
yeah, and I was holding it before, and I was just like, wow, you've probably used this watch a number of times. So because it definitely is worn. You've worn this watch a lot.
It's been around a while.
Yeah, that seems like a lot of sweat on there.
That patina. I mean,
yeah, it's cool. Cheers to that.
Yeah, right.
Cheers.
But it's such an easy price point. I mean, I've seen those for like $100 online, and $100 to get something that like you will never probably.
That's
see
a conversation starter.
Like that,
I mean,
ever.
it's a pretty big conversation starter, and this is a watch that I've always been interested in. I believe it was actually featured on Top Gear. This is just a watch it's just a really interesting idea, and it's a rugged watch, and it's something that could save your life in the right situation, or the story that you told me, get someone in pretty big trouble over. But tell us about it. It's an emergency, it's a Breitling.
Yeah, I've traveled to a ton of different countries, and I've always wanted something where I'm like, just in case anything happens, they'll rescue me. Right. I mean, it's just a fun fantasy to have. Breitling was actually my first kind of big boy watch I've ever got. So I've always had I've always been drawn towards Breitling. And this was always one of those weird watches because there is that like mystique to it of like, you can't touch that button.
Right.
Like anytime you have something, you're like, you're not allowed to touch
Don't want to get in trouble.
Unless it's serious.
Right,
it's
so
like,
I've heard, and I've spoken about it on my channel a few times, and I've known a few people who have owned this watch. I've never known anybody who's actually deployed the antenna, pressed the button. However, I've heard that you get a fine if you are like sitting here right now when I did it, and you are not in an actual emergency situation. Yes. That you are fined.
Yes.
By
so they make you fill out a whole registration. It's like an FCC. There's a whole bunch of documents that you have to figure out and do. This one being said, I've actually had mine deployed.
Right. You're telling me.
Which is I wish I had a cool story like, I was stuck in a jungle and like they actually rescued me. But
so for the record, you were not the one who actually deployed it, right?
I was not.
Okay.
This is the problem with this watch because you always have to tell everyone, don't touch this button. Because like the first time, everyone just starts playing with things. If you're a watch person, or if you just don't know anything about watches, you're gonna pull and push and do things. So I let a jeweler see it, and then he was looking at it, thought it was fascinating and neat, and then he handed it to one of his employees that wasn't so versed in watches by any means. And what's he do? Pulls it out, and he's just like, "What does this do? That doesn't seem right." And then we all just kind of freaked out a little bit. Figured out, it just went into like panic mode because the first thing you think of, oh my God, there's going to be.
Start listening for helicopters and emergency vehicles.
You definitely think that right away. You're like, it definitely kind of sinks in a little. So then we're like trying to figure out, and we looked it up. You have to wrap the antenna around the watch, which allegedly short circuits it, and then kind of disables that feature. But I'm just glad I didn't do it because then they had to send it off and actually get it repaired by Breitling, which definitely happens, but there's a nice fat cost for a couple of thousands to fix just that transmitter.
Moving on to the next watch, and the last watch. This is an Oris. It is a chronograph. I forget what they call this.
So that is the Holstein edition.
Holstein.
I think, or the city of, I believe it's Holstein.
Holstein.
And then the 2020. So that's the first Holstein edition that came out.
Okay, so this is a full bronze watch, full bronze bracelet.
It's the first, I believe it's the first full bronze watch ever to be made.
And the case back, the only thing in stainless steel is the case back, but everything else is in bronze. The dial is a bronze color.
It's weird because when you first get it, it is as gold as it gets. It's actually the same color as the dial. Like it is just goldy, and then it starts to patina and change rapidly. My goal was to just wear this every time I try to go into the beach or pools, or I just wanted to get it really, really weird and patinaed, just because it has such potential of like, and when you do, like if I go to the beach for a day or two, it gets these crazy blue. I mean, it really changes a lot of different colors, and it makes it a lot of fun.
Beautiful watch and a great chronograph. These are great watches, very reliable. And the fact that it's all bronze is really fun. And obviously, turns your wrist probably green.
It really doesn't. I mean, I thought it would. I thought there would be something. I've never really had any markings or anything.
Cool. The last watch on the table, and a very interesting watch because this is a watch that you actually made yourself, and I'm very impressed by the movement. So you were just telling me a little bit about the watch. Tell us about it. And it's a pilot style watch.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, it started with, I mean, I just love watches. I was like, how hard can it be to make a watch? And then I started looking up watchmakers, kind of what you start with, the basic ones, the bigger movements, and you just kind of research because there's so much information online. So I started with the ETA 6497. I feel like that's big enough, it's robust enough. You can watch 400 videos on YouTube on how to fully disassemble and reassemble. So I started with that, bought a random movement online, and I just kind of taught myself to take it apart, put it back together. And then crazy enough, there was a horological society get together in Miami at Jorn.
Oh,
and
wow.
they
Okay.
did a class on how to redo this whole movement. So I was like, that's it. My goal is to rebuild and I'm gonna order all the parts. I'm gonna figure out everything I need and I wanna build my own official watch that like, just, I don't know, it's one of those next, you gotta like check it off, be like, okay, I have kind of my own watch.
So how do we get in contact with you if we'd like to purchase one of these?
I've had
and how many are you making a year?
So many friends have asked me to make them a watch and I'm like, no.
No.
I just don't, okay, for me, I don't think it's gonna be good enough. Like I don't ever think anything's good enough. That's a problem also I have. So it's like, I wouldn't want one little thing to be wrong, to be like, oh, I'm a failure. So it's like, for me, I wanna wear it, beat it up and be like, all right, I wanna see like how hard I can get on it and see if it still goes. And I would feel like such a loser, genuinely, if I gave, like I'm like, maybe I can give them away for free and like, I'll make some for some friends. And I'm like, if it breaks, it's, I can't go wrong.
Yeah,
and it's like, well, it was free.
I feel like we're friends now. So.
Exactly.
So, well, awesome watch. Really nice dial too. I love the hands. I mean, it's obviously a pilot style watch, probably around 44 millimeters.
Yes.
43, somewhere in there.
Yeah, 44.
And no branding, which is cool, but you have that sub-seconds, which is pretty typical of the Unitas movement. Listen, this is great. What a very eclectic collection. Obviously, lots of Mosers, which are awesome, and sort of the centerpiece of your collection. You know, we were here at Moserland as well, and there's lots of other really cool watches around us. And thank you. This is great, and I really do appreciate you coming here. And I think you flew from Florida to do this, which I really do.
I don't need an excuse to be like, okay, I'm gonna go hang out in Manhattan.
And in Moserland and hang out and talk about watches.
Claudio
yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
I genuinely love everyone at Moser. Like they are
great people.
They're like family.
Yep, great people. So thank you so much. And
yeah, man.
Shane, we'll have you back again, hopefully.
Definitely.
Maybe I'll come to Florida next time.
Oh, we'll have a good time.
That'll be good. All right, man. Thank you.
Sweet. Thank you.